Hey everybody, my name is Marco Bagnoli and in this video we talk about Ariana Grande's amazing music movie, we should call it. After this video you should be able to shoot something like this. I cannot tell you how expensive it is to shoot something like this. The whole video is 25 minutes long, 26 to be precise, and we have different locations, set building, actors, a lot of VFX. So everything you have in an expensive movie put into a music video. Also, what you should consider, there are a lot of different techniques that are used. For example, a really long one take. And now I will explain you how to plan and shoot a one take to get similar results, because there are things you can plan in the beginning to make your life a lot easier on set. This is the first shot from the one take, and as you can see, the beginning already was the trick you have to consider. She's coming out of this house and she's standing in front of this fire, which doesn't give her really the key light. Here in the corner there would be an sky panel or something like that with a warm color temperature, giving her the right level that she's not completely dark. But this is how you plan a long shot. You have to consider save points, standing points. When the actor is standing, you're going for a close-up and you need to see the emotions. You plan different spots on the set where there is light. We have the same pattern. She's standing here, she's looking around, and now again we have here a warm fire source that has giving her a lot of key. Also, are we starting to see this bright spotlight that comes down from the sky, that's giving the whole scene a cool tint, as you can see. And this is the reason why your night shots doesn't look as good as in big productions, because in movies they can put the light way up in the sky and just shoot down with soft sources. What they also can do is throw a big China ball in the air, which gives the whole scene a ground exposure. When you look at the monitor, the whole scene would be a lot brighter. A lot of these things, when you shoot at night, you go down with the ISO. So normally we shoot on 800 with the base ISO, but when you shoot this scene at 200 and it's dark, you get a lot more shadow details because your dynamic range is linked to your ISO. That means when you have 800 is the best performance overall on a RED camera, but when you change the ISO, your range shifts. So when you're shooting at bright daylight at 3200 ISO, maybe for example, you get a lot more highlight room. But when it's dark and you're shooting a lot lower ISO, like 200, 100, 400, you get a little bit more details in the shadows. And that's the reason, and also the art. Dark exterior scenes look so clean because you need a lot of light to shoot at a low ISO. And as I said before, you get here this cool ground light that gives the exposure to the whole scene, but also acts as an edge light for her. So we have a little bit of separation from the already dark scenery. This is the crazy wide shot from the whole scene. She were moving from here, and this is the route she's going. This was a stop. As you can see, we have fire here, and also here was a stop. And you can't see it in this screenshot, but here was a police car that gives red and blue light, also giving here a key light at this position. And I don't have to explain to you what gives her the key light at this position. So just to wrap it up, when you're doing a long shot, plan places where emotions are really important and put some practicals there. This overall makes your one take look a lot more professional and clean. This is behind the scene shot from the scene, and you can tell this whole city is built. So this is not a real street. The whole thing is a studio. And when you're planning chaos shots like this, more is always better. Look at the floor. Always keep in mind the floor is also part of the set design. So when you're throwing a lot of paper and water, what makes the whole scene more three-dimensional, you're building interest. Here you can see the big boom pole crane that has these 3 moving heads on them. That's mostly like you use for a stage. You can really control the narrow of the lights, the beam, and the color. But they're not as color accurate. As you can see, I don't know if they made it on purpose, that this is a lot cooler than this light that gives the whole scene an exposure. But if you look closely, This is where Ariana is hanging, and which I like a lot about this shot is the exposure. We are almost clipping here. We still have the detail, but we are almost clipping. I tell a lot of people you don't have to put the exposure every time on the right spot. So exposure, when you're in real life, the exposure is not always the same. Your skin tones are not always perfect on middle gray. So when you're nearly on clipping something, it tells a story. It shows us, okay, something extreme is happening. The image is ripping apart. It's a stressful scene. Something is happening. So tell it with light. This is what I think makes the scene look great. So it tells an emotion more than just putting her on beauty light and making a perfect exposure. Another interesting scene is this one, and this whole sky is blue screen. She's just standing here on a platform and the camera goes around in a green screen. But what's interesting here is, first I think the key doesn't look as good, and I think there's a reason for it. These are real spotlights, and you only see the spotlights when you use haze. And when you use haze on a green screen, the key becomes very difficult because you have moving parts, exposure shifts a little bit. So I don't know why they did it like this, because that is something you could easily done in post. Sure, it wouldn't look as real, but I think this makes the key head look a lot worse. So I wouldn't have done it, but overall the scene looks decent. Also, this was what the monitor was seeing. And you can tell they used blue screen and green tracking markers. Why I always prefer to use blue screen is you always get with a green screen or blue screen a little bit of bounce. You can, when you ever worked with green screen, you can tell that a little bit of green will always appear on skin. And on a blue screen, that will also appear, but it will look a lot more natural. You can get a lot of blue bounce from the sky or something like this, so it looks more familiar and more realistic than the green bounce. That's the reason why we should use more often blue screen, but blue is a color that appears a little more on our clothes. That's the reason why this green screen is still a lot in use. What I think is interesting also here is this, they shot anamorphic. You can see it's 8K, it was on a red Raptor probably, and on 2X anamorphics. And they changed aspect ratio across the whole music view. You have 4:3, here's 1:1, you have widescreen. And this is a technique I really like to use because it also tells different emotions. So when you have a lot of widescreen, the publicum knows, okay, this is now a movie scene. When you have 16:9, it's more real scene. When you have 4:3, it's more like a vintage scene. So also keep in mind aspect ratios tell story and are not just there for the looks. This shot is not in a music video, but in the BTS. And I show you this example because a lot of people say color grading isn't important. It's not the most important part. When you have great lighting, great set, everything will be fine. And that's correct. As you can see, this looks very cinematic. Sure, this has a little bit of clipping highlights here and there, which makes it a lot more digital. Now I will show you the final graded image, and this one looks really, really different. The exposure is way down. It's a lot darker. When you look at her, she has just a little bit exposure on her, just to see a little bit of details on her face and chin. And it's a lot cooler. They were going for an emotional direction. Normal colors wouldn't feel as disorientated or lonely as that really cool tones. They probably set it already in the camera to go for cooler tones, so that in the grading looks more natural. If you do it in camera, it will always look better as in the grading. They shot on red, so probably they shot raw, so they can shade it anytime. But when you're shooting on a normal Sony or something like that, we have no raw options. And you know later in the grading you will turn the image more into blue. Already does it in the camera. And as you can see also the highlights are really put down and give a little bit of color contrast. Because everything is cool, you need something to break the image. And warm practicals are often a good solution for this. But they just seem warm, but when you look closer, they're actually neutral. So, but in a contrast to the really deep blues in this image, this lamp looks really warm. So what does make this image look cinematic? First step is looking for layers. We have her framed in the store. Also we have here a little bit of foreground. We have here highlights, we have this texture on the ceiling, and behind her we have a door that leads to another dimension. Then she's standing in front of this light, which gives a little bit of separation. When she was standing here, she wouldn't have been as prominent, but they're placing there, it gives our eyes also a direction. This is the most bright part in the image, so we are all looking into this direction. These steps that you put always in dark, bright, dark, bright, dark, bright, dark, bright layer into your image gives a lot of depth. Then the next thing is wet down. Wet down just means your floor is wet, and this wetness gives the floor a three-dimensional feeling because the image is not stopping just on the ground, it goes into the deep. And with this weather comes another nice thing, and this is this texture. When you have a hard light shooting into the water that is moving, you get this nice Blade Runner light, most people call it. Also, then the next thing is a little bit of haze. Haze gives light a little bit more dimension, but also lifts the shadows. So your dark scene becomes not palm black, it just gets a little bit of creamy tones in the dark areas. On bigger production you have a storyboard all printed out, and most of the time in the right order you shoot. Here everyone can go to the big board and now, okay, the next one is a medium shot with the dad, this is a close-up shot with the dad. So every department knows, okay, this is the scene where the light should be coming from here. This is the scene where we need a little bit more diffusion because we're going for a close-up. And all these pictures are drawn by a storyboard artist. I never had a shoot where I can allow myself to get someone to draw it for me. But today with AI and a lot of things you can just scribble and do, i.e. make it a lot more beautiful. But it's very helpful for the whole team because, yeah, you know, as a DP and a director, most of the time know every shot that they were wanting to shoot, but the other departments are more vague. They know, okay, this is the scenery, this is the light. Even with the lighting plan, they don't know or not care as much what's the next shot is. So that's the reason when you have the time and budget to build always this big board with every shot, so everyone can take a look what the next scene is. The communication gets a little bit faster and you spend less time on set because you want to go home. Not everyone wants to shoot every day 20 hours. If you liked the video, I would really appreciate a subscription from you. My name is Marco Bagnoli and we see you next time.